Hey, good Sunday morning, Northeast Ohio. It was a week dominated by news drops out of Washington, talks with North Korean leaders, tariffs on steel. I had a chance to talk about some of those with Vice President Mike Pence in Cleveland on Friday as he came to town to tout the benefits of the Republican tax cuts.
I want to go back to Representative Mike Pence, who was for a balanced budget agreement against deficit spending. How would he feel about a plan that would add $1.5 trillion conservatively to the deficit?
Well, let me say I couldn't be more proud to be serving alongside a president who's put American jobs and a growing American economy first. And the reality is that by cutting taxes for individuals and businesses, we're seeing the kind of growth represented in the jobs numbers this morning. 313,000 jobs created in the month of February, 50,000 new jobs here in the state of Ohio. A growing economy is going to make it possible for us to deal with the issues of our national debt, to set ourselves on a path of fiscal responsibility. But what President Trump made clear early on is we've got to put growth first, and getting this economy growing again by cutting taxes, rolling back regulation, and making the right kind of investments in our country that will all support the kind of growth and an expanding economy that will meet those obligations for generations to come.
Two stories over the last week seem to drop out of the air. The one last night, the president saying that he would agree to go where no president has gone before in meeting with a leader in North Korea, and the tariffs on steel and aluminum. Did you have any knowledge of either of these before they were announced?
Well, of course, we've been talking about the issue of steel and aluminum tariffs now for over a year. The 232 action that the president announced this year is part of a long-term process implemented and a report developed by the Commerce Department. But the president announced that decision in a way, John, of keeping the promise that he made to the American people.
You were very free trade when you were in Congress.
Well, look, the president and I both believe in trade, but this is a president who believes that while we have free trade, we need to also have fair and reciprocal trade. And when you look at the trade deals that the United States has entered into in recent years, whether it be NAFTA or whether it be tolerating steel dumping in this country by countries like China, the reality is that for too many years, too many countries have been taking advantage of the United States, and under President Donald Trump, those days are over. That's why we're renegotiating NAFTA, and that's why the president took the decisive action that he did earlier this week to make sure that we have a strong and vibrant steel and aluminum industry in this country. As the president said, if you don't have steel, you don't have a country, because our national defense depends on a strong and vibrant steel and aluminum industry, and the president's taken action to preserve that.
Interesting numbers to remember in all this talk around steel. While there are 6 million Americans who are employed in industries that use steel and aluminum, the number of people actually employed in the steel industry in 2015 was only around 140,000. To put that in perspective, the Cleveland Clinic has around 40,000 employees. A lot of that has to do with automation. The American Steel Institute estimates in 1980 it took about 10 man-hours to produce a ton of steel. In 2015, that number cut by about 80%, down to 2. Following an example of politics making strange bedfellows, one of the people who applauded the president's move was Ohio Democratic Senator Sherrod Brown, who told me he's not worried about this sparking a trade war.
The sky is falling free trade crowd shouts that from the rooftops every time there's any challenge to NAFTA or PNTR with China. And I voted against those trade agreements. I think they were bad for our country. I want to see an aggressive enforcement of trade law.
Well, you can be sure a lot of steel will be used in the renovation of Quicken Loans Arena, which is now underway. This week, the arena was home for the 19th year to the MAC Basketball Championships, which wrapped up last night. It was an ever-changing crowd over 4 days for 14 games with an economic impact of $15 million. Do you know what, though? Something bigger is coming this week. The NCAA Division I Men's Wrestling Championships. No, seriously.
With NCAA, people know about Final Four and basketball. Some people know about the Frozen Four. NCAA Division I wrestling is even more impactful for the community than those. We expect about 19,000 of the 20,000 fans in the arena will be from outside of Cleveland.
The wrestling community is really tight-knit. So there's like 15,000 of these people that have been at every one of these forever.
6 sessions over 3 days sold out, in part because of that popularity, but also because the number 1 and 2 teams in the country heading into the tournament are Penn State and Ohio State, both an easy drive to the queue.
What we're being told by the NCAA is this is the toughest ticket on the secondary market they've ever seen for the wrestling championships.
Everything gets underway Thursday at the Q. With Democracy 2018, I'm John Kosich. Enjoy your Sunday.